let the others join in. We can
Yeah.
start, we can wait start after 5 to 10 minutes.
5 minutes, yeah, 5-10 minutes, yes. Dr. Ilian, you can start.
Good afternoon, everyone. The Ministry of Education, Government of India, has established MOE's Innovation Cell, or MIC, to systematically foster the culture of innovation amongst all higher education institutions across India. The primary mandate of MIC is to encourage, inspire, and nurture young students by supporting them to work with new ideas and transform them into prototypes while they are in their formative years. MIC has created Institutions Innovative Council across selected higher education institutions. One such Institutions Innovative Council has been established in Goa University since the year 2017. In the last 2 years, a large number of activities have been conducted, benefiting both students and faculty. Today, we have come up with yet another important session. At the outset, on behalf of the Institution Innovative Council of Goa University, I welcome you all for today's orientation session on national innovation and startup policy. I now take this privilege to introduce our today's speaker, Shri Milind Anvekar, who has kindly consented to conduct this session for the benefit of our faculty and students. Mr. Milind Anvekar is currently the Vice President at Open Destinations Infotech Private Limited. He is also the Vice President at Goa Technology Association. He is the Chairman of GTA's Industry Academia Connect Council, as well as the Chairman of GTA's Student Chapter. He is a member of Panel of Experts for Startup Promotion Cell Goa, member of Goa Chamber of Commerce and Industry Education Committee. He is the member of Board of Studies for MCA course at Goa University. He is the member of Don Bosco College of Engineering's Innovative Council, a core team member of Vibrant Goa Global Expo and Summit. He is also the chairman of Goa Vibrant Knowledge Series and Summit. He is the winner and is also also won the GTA President's Award in 2019. I request all participants to mute your microphone and videos during the presentation. Any queries may be typed into the chat box or raised at the end of the presentation. In order to ensure your certificates, please fill in and submit the feedback form. The link to the feedback form will be available in the chat box. May I now request Mr. Milind Anvekar to take over. So you may start sharing the screen.
Yeah, thank you so much. Namaste to all of you all. That's good to have this first session with the university. So just to add on to what all that was mentioned, I am also an alumni of Goa University, both at undergraduate and postgraduate level. So I think it's really nice to be back here with all of you guys, after 20 long years, talking about the innovation council that is being set up. Right. So I'll share my screen. Probably wait for a confirmation that you all are able to see it. Are we able to see the screen?
No, sir, not yet. Yes, it's clear.
Okay, visible?
Yes, yes.
Good. Okay, so I think that's a good start. We are now connected, and then we're all set to go. So today, I understand this is the first session for this year on the National Innovation and Startup Policy. I'm glad to be getting this opportunity to speak and talk about the policy that is there to all of you all. So what I thought we will do today in this session is cover just 4 points. One is just give a background to this entire innovation stuff, entrepreneurial stuff that we're going to talk about, the policy that is going to be there, why it is there. Then we will of course look at the innovation and the startup policy, what is there in it, and what is that we really need to probably explore it for. The support system that is being provided to make sure that the policy is being implemented successfully, and of course there are some other resources I would like to share with all of you to just make sure that you people get access to it and find that of use. So that's what we'll try to limit it. We will limit it to 45 minutes, and then if there are questions, we'll be open to pick up those. Right. So yes. So to begin with, I think a lot of things changed, and I think this is one dream that made a lot of these changes that we're talking of today. So there is a bigger vision, that we have to hit 5 trillion, be a 5 trillion economy by 2024. How is it going to happen? That's the challenge, and then therefore a lot of initiatives being put in place to make sure that we drive in that direction. And some of the initiatives, I'm sure most of you are aware by now: Make in India, Digital India, Invest India, Startup India, and now Atmanirbhar Bharat Abhiyan. Right. So a lot of these things coming together to make sure that we are working towards a common goal of making India a 5 trillion economy. And the next one in the list is the Institutions Innovation Council. This is an initiative by the Ministry for Human Resource Development. So the Institution Innovation Council, IIC, is an initiative of MHRD for selected higher secondary institutes. We will refer them going forward. We will say some references to HEIs, which are nothing but the higher education institutes. A network of all the IICs will be established to promote innovation through various modes, leading to an innovation promotion ecosystem in the campuses, right? So I think very clear objective of why we are having this particular council in place and what we're trying to achieve with this, right? Now, before I go on to what this council is supposed to do, what role the university or the institute has to play, what is there for students, what is there for faculty. Third, we'll just go and look at some other aspects as to why this initiative is there, and the next thing that we will see is a little bit about innovation. What is innovation? So innovation is the crux. What we're looking here. So there are two things. One, we will talk about innovation. The other one is entrepreneurship. So these are two things which are being spoken about in a big way and being tried to put in place here. So innovation means to improve or to replace something. For example, it could be a process, a product, or service. The creation of value is a defining characteristics of this innovation that we're talking about, right? So this is very important as to what is that we're trying to innovate. And there are different kinds of innovations. There are process innovations. There are organizational processes that need to be changed. So innovations are with the processes. It could be product development. It could be service innovation, or it could be a complete business model itself, which could be part of the innovation. And then, of course, we will have an incremental innovation as well as a completely disruptive innovation. So wherever you put some changes to existing process, it could be an incremental one. Whereas you completely come up with a new process which will change the way we do things, it will be part of your disruptive innovation. Like for example, say Ola, Uber, for example, change the way we look at the transportation segment, and then a lot of solutions get built on top of those basic stuffs, right? So innovation at different levels, different types, and that's something that we all need to look at. What is the kind of innovation we all really want to do? And I'm sure each one of you have got different ideas. And one interesting thing is, while you feel your idea is unique, many times you also realize as you move on with the idea is that someone somewhere in the world is also thinking about a similar idea. So it's very, very important. So you see a lot of people who are very, very productive about their innovation, secretive about their ideas. And rightly so, because I think it's a very competitive world, and you need to be very, very clear about what you're really wanting to do with your innovation. Now, innovation is not easy. Innovation is difficult, and I think let's understand why. So fear is one of the emotions that comes to all naturally, most of us, and it takes and it makes it very hard for us to engage in a massive work of innovation. So this is a big problem. because failure is an unavoidable part of innovation, experimentation, I would say most of the times. And innovation requires the willingness to fail, and learn. So, I think that's very, very important. That's one of the fundamental changes that we probably want to understand and have incorporate into our culture. We need to learn to celebrate mistakes. I think that's something which is not easy, and that is what makes it difficult. Like I remember a quote from Thomas Edison, one who invented an electric light bulb for us. And he would say that, I have not failed 1,300 times. I have successfully identified or discovered 1,300 ways to not make a light bulb. So that's basically what it is. So how do you basically not have that fear of failing and go on to it? And that's something our current system does not, unfortunately, allow us to play with. And that's one of the objectives we will see that we are trying to achieve with this new initiative of the MHRD. So you will also see, when you talk now further about the policy, we will talk about a mindset for innovation, right? So when you talk about innovation, you first start thinking differently. So you break the rules. So that's one of the key stuff you will see. You break some of the rules. You collect ideas everywhere. You get ideas to see everywhere, and then you start building on those ideas. You start believing in the impossible. So whatever some people feel is not possible, someone will probably say, okay, there is a way of doing it, so make things happen. And then, very important for you to make your innovation a reality, it's very important to have a team in place, right? So making sure that you also understand that at times you cannot do all on your own, and you need to collaborate is equally important. Part of a mindset to have the innovation that you're working on to be a success, right? So one of the important points that the policy emphasizes for the institutions is to try and build this mindset. How do we get everyone to have a mindset wherein innovation is the key, entrepreneurship is something that people look up to, and we start building an infrastructure, ecosystem, support system for having this right kind of mindset with the students, wherein you will then have a culture of startups, right? So a quick summary of some of the big names that I'm sure many of you have heard by now. So these are some of the Indian startups that are there on the scene. I'm sure a lot of them are quite successful today. People look up to them, but I'm sure each one of them had their own times of failures, wherein they struggled to deliver to what was expected or what they really wanted to. And they have come a long way, and now people are talking about them very proudly. But these are some of them. Now, the fear of failure is what I said. There are very, very few people who will first go with that mindset of becoming an entrepreneur, and then maybe some of them will succeed. Like, for example, if you see today, the failure rate of startups, it's close to 90%. Right now, that's very scary, and that drives many people off. Right. So with all the systems that are being put in place, the idea is how do we increase that pass rate, which is around 10%, to maybe 20%, 30%, 40%, right? And that's where the difference comes in. In addition to that, today, if only 10% of the people are thinking in an education framework, if only 10% of the students are thinking about being an entrepreneur, then probably just 10% of that 10% really makes that a reality. How do we increase that, right? So there are different numbers that we will eventually start looking at and working on to make sure that this entire policy gets implemented in the right sense, to make sure that we are achieving the overall objective and the vision that is set up. So moving on. In November of 2016, AICT, that's All India Council of Technical Education, they released actually the first startup policy document for AICT approved institutions, basically to address the need of inculcation of innovation and entrepreneurial culture in the higher education institutes. Right now, thereafter, based on the interactions and feedback received from the institutions, a need was felt for a more elaborate and comprehensive policy document or the guiding document for the institutions, which will be applicable to all of the HEIs in India. Therefore, a 15-member committee was put in place under the chairmanship of Ashok Jhunjhunwala. He's a well-known professor from IIT Madras. A committee was constituted by MHRD to formulate guidelines for various aspects related to innovation, startup, and entrepreneurial management. This committee deliberated on various aspects, which covered intellectual property. So now these are some very, very important aspects that came from the feedback and had to be addressed. Into intellectual property ownerships, revenue sharing mechanisms, norms for technology transfer and commercialization, and equity sharing. Right now, these are things which normally would not be part of an education setup, but then these are now all being discussed and now put in place as to how do we get to work around all of this. And then after multiple rounds of meetings, the policy was prepared, and the policy that we will talk today, at a very high level, we will see what does it have for us to offer. So that's the background, which we have a policy in place, and now we have more and more institutes which are coming forward to be part of the ISEs and having their own innovation councils in the colleges. So I think this is a very good initiative by the MHRD, and the colleges will take some time to adopt to this kind of culture, to the expectations that are set from the policy, because this is not something that even an institution is already equipped with. They will also have to prepare, they will have to invest time, money to make sure that they start building that support system. And over a period of time, what we are talking about is a very strong infrastructure ecosystem across the entire country, right? So talking about collaboration, we're talking about we are talking about sharing resources, we're talking about success stories, and there are many other supporting initiatives that are there to make sure that we just don't have a policy, but a policy that really translates into results, right? So we will talk about this. So quickly, just talking about what is this National Innovation and Startup Policy for students and faculty. It's very important to understand. It's for students and faculty, but the policy has a lot of stuff even for the institutes, and for them to also realize how we will come in terms with a lot of the things that will come in the way which they will have to probably address, right? So this is a policy for students, faculties of higher education institutes, and the policy will enable the institute to actively engage students, faculties, and staff in innovation and entrepreneurial related activities. This framework will facilitate MHRD in bringing uniformity across HEIs in terms of intellectual property ownership management, technology licensing, institutional startup policy, thus enabling creation of robust innovation and startup ecosystem across all HEIs, right? So I also shared here a link. I'll be sharing the slide, so in case you want the link, you will find a link to the policy here. I will not go through the policy in detail. I will want you all to go and read the document. It's a 40-page document, of which there are just 10 pages which are around those specific points. So I'll talk at a very broad level. I'll summarize things for you so that we can have some interactions subsequently. So what is interesting here first is to understand the vision, right? And I think what the policy does is make sure that everything is aligned to the vision and trying to make sure that the policy becomes success, right? So India aspires to become a 5 trillion economy by 2024. This is the very first statement that everything gets aligned to, right? So to reach this mark, obviously it needs to evolve system and mechanisms to convert the present demographic divided into high quality technical human resource capable of doing cutting edge research and innovation and deep tech entrepreneurship. So we're talking about building an education system which is oriented towards startups and entrepreneurship opportunities for students and faculties. So it's then developing into. So these are basically all the vision statements, right? So then developing entrepreneurial agenda, managing intellectual property rights, ownership, technology licensing, equity sharing in startups or enterprises established by faculties and students, right? Enable institutions to actively support their faculty, students, staff to participate in innovation and entrepreneurship related activities, thus encouraging students and faculty to consider startups and entrepreneurship as a career option. Bring uniformity across HCIs in terms of IPR ownership management, technology licensing, and institutional startups policy, thus enabling creation of robust innovation and startup ecosystem across all HCIs. Emphasize that the entrepreneurship is all about creating a business which is financially successful. So I think the policy talks about all that is required, and I think it gives an emphasis on making sure that whatever businesses eventually you want to start up are successful, right? So right from what the vision is, starting with the Indian economy being a 5 trillion, to how do you make sure that everyone down the line works towards that vision by making sure you contribute in your own way. And the reason I also mentioned earlier about a mindset changes because default mindset is of a job seeker. Everyone wants to become job ready. Want to make sure I have a very good job with me. And colleges also then try to talk loudly about how much placement they're able to offer to the students, right? So it's not only about the students thinking about not just jobs or being a job seeker, but becoming a job giver. It's also about an institute trying to make sure that they talk about promoting, the mindset which is about innovation, but more importantly about entrepreneurship, and then making sure that you also talk about success stories of the successes that have come out with these initiatives, right? So all of that is aligned with the vision, and every aspect that we talk about is actually aligned to the same vision, right? So which is a very good starting point for any document and the support system that it provides. Next slide. Okay. So what are the trust areas? So I think this is where I just wanted to quickly go through the policy itself. These are the 10 points in the policy. It talks about strategies and governance that an institution should put in place. Startups, enabling institutional infrastructure, nurturing innovation startups, product ownerships, rights for technologies developed at the institute, organizational capacity, human resources incentives, creating innovation pipeline and pathways for entrepreneurs at institute level, norms for faculty startups. Then we have pedagogy and learning interventions for entrepreneurial development and collaborations, co-creation, business relationships, knowledge exchange, and finally the entrepreneurial impact assessment, right? So these are the different trust areas. I will just switch across at this point of time and just look at the. So this is the policy. Can anyone just confirm that you're able to see the document?
Yes.
Okay. Good. So this is a policy. So this is a 40-page document. It has all messages from everyone involved into this. Just go through this. All the people who have been involved in this policy formulation. And I'll quickly go through this. Some of the ones that I've highlighted, which you might find useful. You can download this policy document to go through it in more details. So as I mentioned, the first one is about strategies and governance, and it is basically to facilitate development of an entrepreneurial ecosystem in the organization, specific objectives and associated performance indicators that should be defined for assessment. So, it talks about what strategies the institute should put in place to make sure that you are able to implement this particular policy, right? So again, it clearly mentions that one must understand that promoting entrepreneurship requires a different type of mindset as compared to other academic activities, and therefore the person that you are probably getting to try with should be very carefully chosen for someone who understands the industry and above all business, right? So this is one of the big changes, because usually I think the university recruitment happens with certain predefined qualifications like a PhD and things like that. So there is going to be some kind of a change as to what would be the requirements for a person who's going to drive this kind of initiatives. Then it also talks about the financial strategy that that is expected to be defined, because now you need to have funds to be driving these programs, right? So the minimum expectation set is that you have minimum 1% of the fund of the total annual budget of the institution, which is allocated for funding and supporting innovation and startup related activities, and you call this an innovation fund, right? And then you also raise your own funds. You will have different sources, and some of them are also mentioned, because that also tells you that there are funds available, and all of these different bodies should also be able to come up and provide you some kind of funding, either for the initiative or for some of the startups or the incubators, right? And then, of course, you partner with your private and corporate sectors under the CSR, corporate social responsibility, and get some funding from them. So that's the first one, wherein you define policies and how do you basically get the infrastructure ready there. How do you get the strategies ready to meet the objectives? And then second one is about how do you create an infrastructure, right? So you create a pre-incubation and incubation facilities for nurturing innovations and startups in the institution where you want to undertake these activities. And again, if you see here, the goal of the effort should be to link innovations to enterprises to financial success, right? So I think that's where everything has to get aligned. So making the facilities available 24/7 to the students, staff, faculty, and of course there is a cost, and the policy also talks about how do you go about compensating for the facilities that are getting used, right? So here, may offer mentoring and other relevant facilities to pre-incubation, incubation units in return for fees, equity sharing, or zero payment basis. Yeah. The next one is nurturing innovation and startups. So the institutes are expected to establish processes and mechanisms for easy creation and nurturing of startup entrepreneurship by the students, staffs, faculty, alumni, right, and potential startup applicants from even outside the institution, right? So I think you're trying to make sure that you're just not limiting to the students, but you're going across to faculties, but also going to alumni, right? And also to anyone who's interested, who is not from the institution, to come up and consider starting up on the campus. So you provide incubation support. You provide support for the licensing of the intellectual property rights. Yeah. Then it also, is quite considerate with the students with regards to the attendance. So I think some students may, be happy with this. Student entrepreneurs should be allowed to sit for examinations even if the attendance is less than the minimum permissible percentage, with due permission from the institute. Okay. The institute should allow students to take semester or a year break if required. And then, of course, you set up committees to make sure that you review this, make sure that you give the permission. So it's just not people can adopt to it, but there is a process that gets defined for it. Similarly, it is also talking for faculties. So allow faculty staff to take off a semester or year, and it also mentions that the seniority and other academic benefits during such periods may be preserved for such staff or faculty. Right? It also encourages to start a part-time, full-time, MS, MBA programs on the campuses, wherein you can get a degree while incubating and nurturing your startup company. There are guidelines, separate guidelines for how you do that. Yeah. So then there are more things as to that the student and the faculties can get benefited from. Yeah. Now this is very important, wherein you're talking about an equity stake. So for all the services that you're offering, institute may take 2% to 9.5% equity stake in the startup, right, or the company that is there, based on the brand use, facilities, faculty contribution, and support provided and use of the institute's facilities. Then it defines for staff. If staff is involved in a startup, then how do you basically compensate for it? So it gives a thought through that, so that staff can accommodate these additional activities in addition to what they are already doing. So how do you basically balance the work for them? The next one is on the product ownership rights for technologies developed in the institute, and this had come up as one of the key challenges because when you work and build something on campus, who owns it? Kind of a debate triggered this particular need to put this in place, and this now is more clearer. So the inventors and institute together license the product IPR for any commercial organization. So what it says is it can be jointly owned by an institute, right? Uh, but it also says that if a product and IPR is developed by innovators not using any institute facilities outside the institute, then and outside the office hours, and not as part of the curriculum by the student, then the product IPR will be entirely owned by inventors in proportion to the contributions made by them, right? So then it says if there is a dispute, then how do you take care of the dispute? So these are all which have come from the different experiences that they had. Then organization capacity, human resources incentives. So institute should recruit staff that have a strong innovation and entrepreneurial industrial experience, behavior and attitude. And that's where I was talking about. You need to have someone who has the risk-taking abilities, who can drive this mindset change amongst people, right? So you usually look at external subject matter experts such as guest lecturers, alumni coming, engaging with the students, and getting the required skills to the system. Creating innovation pipeline and pathways for entrepreneurs at institute level. So again, you provide exposure, maximum exposure to students at every stage, especially at the early stage, and provide the support so that you can have an ideation to a product which can go to the market. You have to spread awareness by having different events in place. You could have competitions, hackathons, workshops, boot camps, seminars, conferences, a lot of other activities which can be put in place to make sure that you spread awareness, you provide platforms for the students and faculty members. Yeah, so I think again as part of this, how do you create a networking opportunities wherein you get some of the angel investors onto the campuses, so people have access to them. So in case they want any funding, how do we basically how do you also promote a culture? Because anyone who puts in the money into your business or in you, is taking a risk. So it basically should be an obligation for any entrepreneur to make every effort possible to prove that the funding agency did the right thing by funding him or her. So how do you build that as a culture? So that is also equally important. So that is spoken of in the policy. And the institute is also asked to make sure that you have a single point contact for any help that a student or faculty may need, and they are also asked to keep a ready reckoner on the homepage of the website, right? So these are guidelines given even at a website level. Now, again, for faculty startups, there is a clear definition as to what the faculty startup is expected to do. So, you have norms for faculties to do a startup within the institution. So, role of faculty may vary from being an owner, director, promoter, mentor, consultant, or on-board member for any startup, right?